right, well, I guess they could carry on with the stage 3 tax cuts. That might be one solution for them. But we're going to go to Eamonn again. The PM copped a bit of a tough time on radio this morning about the voice to the Constitution. Don't know if you heard him on Ben Fordham. It seems to me that the government needs to do a better job of selling this if they're going to get it over the line, particularly with Peter Dutton in the opposition leader's role. What do you think?
Look, this is a really interesting one, right? Because it is such a fundamental issue. It goes to who we are as a nation. And there are two ways to approach it. You do all the deal up front in terms of a campaign, and you run the risk of people not being able to grasp and fully and get consensus on the basic issue. But you'll see the Prime Minister come back to it time and again. The basic question is one of fairness and doing the right thing and enshrine it in the Constitution. And that's where he has tried to keep it. Now, there are obviously details being worked out. Some of the greatest constitutional advisors in the country are working on this campaign, and people from right across the community and the Indigenous community. So what we will see in the months ahead, knowing that this is coming in the second half of the year, is a stage rollout of what this will involve. But I think there's actually still a bit of work to just answer the basic issue and to make sure everybody is coming from the same place, which is enshrining this in the Constitution. Now, if you want to start drawing a line under our past as a nation and some of the aspects that are much more difficult to deal with, then you have to accept that we need a better way of making sure there is a voice. And there is a voice, an advisory voice that goes into how the laws are made and what things look like, so we get a better result. We get a better result across all of Australian society.
Jason Falinski, what's your view on the concept? Can it work? Can it work at referendum, first of all? And then generally, could it work?
Yeah, so Andrew, look, I agree with Eamonn. What we're dealing with here is a group of people who have been historically disenfranchised in the Australian community. And I think the vast majority of Australians want to do everything they possibly can to ensure that Indigenous Australians have better outcomes in the future than they've had in the past, and more than that, access to better opportunities than they've had in the past. The problem that I think a lot of Australians are facing at the moment is they don't understand how the voice does that. And today's interview on Ben Fordham kind of demonstrated that it doesn't seem like the Prime Minister does either. And I agree with Eamonn. I personally am someone who is very much in favour of a treaty with our First Nations people to remove or at least recognise the original stain of our foundation, which is that we took land from Aboriginal or Indigenous Australians without compensation, without asking them, without a treaty. And that, I think, is probably where our efforts should be more properly focused at the moment than on the voice. And look, I don't think, and I've got to be blunt, I don't think over Christmas, New Year, having Bill Shorten call people racist because they had the audacity in a democracy to ask, so what does this look like and how does this work, is actually going to help. And I'm really worried that this proposal fails and that Aboriginal Australians come to the conclusion, or Indigenous Australians come to the conclusion, that other Australians don't care about them. And I really do think that a lot needs to be done by the proponents of this proposal to bring more Australians into the camp by asking some pretty simple questions.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. Thanks so much for your time this afternoon.